Look at that. That is picture perfect. Not one trouble code stored in the Canadian car, this 2006 BMW M5. Whew. Finally got the instrument cluster back today from coding. They anticipated having it done yesterday. That turned into today. Not a big deal. They said it might not be a simple plug and play drop in. They might need to do some additional coding. I can kind of handle that. I figured I'd just write a blank fsw.psw.man using an SG coherent command and kind of reset it, but it would appear that everything's perfect. I did have to go in and reset like 17 codes that came up from us just moving the car around the shop with no cluster. Every module is complaining about communication issues with the combi, which is the instrument cluster. I'm going to drive this car home tonight, kind of make sure things look right and make sense. Before, they had just changed the facade, like, I don't know if it was a sticker or what. They popped the needles off and put a different thing on there to put it into miles per hour instead of kilometers. And when it said 80 miles an hour down here, like V equals 80 miles an hour, it actually, the needle was closer to like 77, which was bizarre. So now with the proper US cluster coded to this car, that should be spot on 80. These things are really accurate, or at least they perceive a high level of accuracy. We don't have an oil reading because I think that must be stored in the combi, so it's trying to update that now. I think the oil's just coming up to temp, but no more codes on this guy, which means we're ready for the rod bearing sublet. That happens on Monday. After that, we'll put a couple more miles on the car and then get it off to the customer, and this one will be done. So before I head out here, it's 8:12 on Thursday. Today has just been an absolute shit kicker of a day because I had to spend about 3 hours screwing around on the 25th year car, the frozen gray one, up in here. Turns out a wire was damaged, so we had like every light on the dash in that car, ABS, DSC, check engine, just bitching about absolutely everything. And it turns out that was because we didn't have communication with the fuel pressure sensor, which is by the ABS module, as I talked about. It's down in there behind the front left wheel as I drop the 10 mil. Come on, one hand is so difficult. So I went to the DME. It's X60002 connectors, 3 pins in there. It's a 3-pin sensor. You got power, you got ground, and you got a signal. And we had power, measured 4.6 volts, which is in spec. So, you know, as expected, our power and ground wires had continuity to the DME. What we didn't have continuity with was the signal line. So we checked down here, everything looked fine. Everything in the DME box, I even redid the splice, put a new pin on there, all of that was fine. So there's like a X14049 connector in between the sensor and the DME, which is down, of course, up in the pedal box ceiling by the clutch pedal. So I got to tear all that apart, get in there and find that that wire was damaged during clutch pedal installation. Must have gotten caught in between the pry tool and a hole in the chassis we use carefully. Obviously not carefully enough on this car. So really, really uncomfortable area to work in because you're way buried down in here, like a foot above my finger, kind of just below the dashboard, and trying to get crimps and tools and strippers and splicing and all of that in there is just miserable. But I was able to remake the connection, and now it works. That got rid of like every single code. So putting that together, we didn't drive it or anything, but starting, idling, a few revs, 0 codes, 0 lights on the dash. So that's a great sign. We'll need to drive it a little bit. In order for that to happen, I did as much as I could here alone tonight. All the heat shields are back, put the clips on the selector rod, so that's good to go and buttoned up. The exhaust is kind of ready to go on, but this cat was replaced under warranty, the Bank 2 cat, and the clamp they used, well, look at the way it was cut. So if you line the cats up right here with the casing, that's where they're supposed to be. I'm even being a little generous there. What the hell? This is not good. So this is the clamp that was on there, and obviously the pipe was cut about 3/4 of an inch too short, and this clamp is all deformed. So I have another one that we can use in the meantime, but this needs to be welded. You got to cut this out, weld a piece in there, and get that done right. The second problem is the flange on the actual header on bank 1, so passenger side. The flange is missing. Well, there's what that one looks like, just a piece of pipe. This one has this piece welded on, which allows the bolts to come to thread in and clamp the 2 pieces together of exhaust with enough pressure. So we have the clamp, it just fell off. There's not even any weld marks. It looks like a factory mistake, but there's no way. So something's going on here. That's gonna have to be welded back on. The clamp itself, or the piece that will clamp is this, and there's no indication of really any foul play here, just some light sooting. So we got issues to fix there. Once that's done though, we really just need a shift knob in this thing, some road testing. He put F10 M5 license plate lights in, which look nice. They're LED, they're not too bright. Mine are probably too bright, but every time you started the car, it gave warning faults for the rear license plate lights left and right. So I just went in per his request and coded off the hot and cold checks for those. So no more codes there. Kind of a hack, but so is putting the F10 lights in, although it does look nice. It's probably a better look. Though on my dad's car, we just got the LEDs. I think that looks absolutely fine. And there's no codes with those. A lot of work on Nate's car today. Whole front suspension's out. He approved the struts. I ordered them, but they're 4 weeks out. So we got to hear from him if he wants to do that or not. There's the old existing blown up struts that do need to be replaced. We got new bearings on the carriers. Carriers are down there. We're working on the straight control arms. I got the Oetiker clamps on these boots today. Nate, I did pull back the boots and get a look in there in the rack. Everything is mint, perfectly clean, not a drop of power steering fluid. So that's definitely good, but we've got a lot of reassembly to do. Otherwise, we've got new bushings in here. All that's torqued back to spec, including that bolt. So that part is done. The drive shaft is out, the differential is out and over here. I'm not sure what Mike was able to complete before he left today, if it's been sealed yet or not. We'll definitely get it cleaned up. It doesn't look like it's been apart yet. So that is pending. Here's the exhaust system. We've got it down on cardboard. It's not to mar the tips at all. And you've got these cutouts up here, as you're well aware, and only bank 2 has cutouts. Has a cutout, so you've got the sound of a straight 5, and we'll talk to you about that, how you want to probably sublet that to an exhaust shop to just cut that piece off here and figure out a way to replace that. I don't know, make that their problem. So that was the day. E60 M5 day, lots of work, lots of progress. Tomorrow's another MPI on a guy that we did a E65 master cylinder and new booster for. No updates here. We're thinking we're going to do the teardown and get a look at the crankshaft and rods and journals and whatnot when time allows. No updates on the 540s, no updates on the 530s. I was tearing the shop apart last night and today because I'm driving this other Silverstone. I was driving this other Silverstone car, which by the way is not leaking, which is great. So I got 40 some miles on the car and totally dry, no issues there at all. We do see a drop out of the bank 2 Vanos board, solenoid seals and profile gasket. So I talked to him about that. He's like, yeah, just bulletproof it. Let's go in there and do that too. Order the parts, they'll be in tomorrow. Anyways, driving this without a blue bus is annoying. So I have a spare around here that I use in customer cars for test drives. Can't find it anywhere. Went through the 530s, 540s, though I know I never had them in there. So the red one that we had, the Imola car, I messaged him and said, hey, check your trunk. Is there any way I left that thing in there 6 weeks ago? Sure enough, there it was in the trunk. He never even noticed it. So oops, he's gonna send that back to me later. Anyways, I'm gonna get out of here before it gets too dark. I gotta move cars in. Okay, we're not done yet. So the cruise control thing is at exactly 80. The speedometer says about 78. V equals 84. And if I adjust the cruise control, we're in kilometers. So we'll have to look at that tomorrow.